This week, we meet a wonderful filmmaking husband and wife team, Bill Bennett, who's been on our program several times, and Jennifer Cluff. And we'll be talking about the new film, The Way, My Way. Jennifer and Bill, what a wonderful combination. Lovely to see and talk to you both.
Likewise.
Thank you, Barry. It's lovely to talk to you too.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to obviously talk about the fantastic film that you have just made, The Way, My Way, which is showing all around Australia now and hopefully overseas very shortly. But let's go back, first of all, to find out, what do you see as the significance of the Camino? Why was it such a pull for you, Bill?
I really don't know, Barry. I mean, it's a combination of things, I think. It is, I am attracted to the tradition of it, if you like. I'm attracted to the notion of a spiritual endeavor. I'm attracted to Spanish red wine and paella.
Very important.
It's a very, very hard thing to articulate, really, but it's the whole package. Like, I've got absolutely no desire to do long walks in places that aren't pilgrimage related. I have no desire to walk the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest, or the Coast to Coast walk in the UK or whatever. There's a pilgrimage route in a couple, in fact, in Japan, which really do they appeal to me a lot. But walking just for the sake of walking long distances, it doesn't appeal to me.
No, well, it had to have. That's what I want to know about the significance. What about you, Jennifer? Did the Camino appeal to you like that, or was it a different story?
Quite a different story for me.
I thought so.
I wasn't at all interested in doing it, and I was shocked, absolutely shocked. And still there's a part of me that's still shocked that Bill wanted to do it. And I just couldn't get over that. Why would someone like Bill, who loved luxury, who loved flying in fancy aeroplanes and doing fancy things, want to walk all that way in Spain and stay in the basic accommodation, the albergues? It just didn't make sense. And myself and my children, really thought he'd get over it. But he never did. The desire to do it just got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And he tried to get me to go with him. Mm-hmm. Right up to the last, he kept on asking me to go with him. And there's no way I was going to do that. This was obviously something he had to do. It was calling him. It wasn't calling me. And he obviously had to do it. And he did. And changed our life. Absolutely, totally. Right there. Changed our life.
Now, Bill, you've made a film. The first one we talked about was PGS, your personal guidance system. Now, this comes up quite a bit as you're going through the walk, and also you mentioned it, of course, in the film. Was that, do you think, the intuition, that inner voice that called you, that eventually led to that documentary film that you two made?
Well, yeah, what happened, Barry, was that I've been trying to make this film for a long, long time, quite a few years, and I'd been unsuccessful. And I decided to walk the Camino and dedicate the walk to this film that I wish to make, because on one level I was hoping that the Camino would clear whatever blockages I might have that were preventing me from making the film. So in dedicating the walk to PGS, to intuition, what that meant was that I didn't do any pre-planning. I'm very much a planning person.
Sure is.
Well, you have to be, don't you, in your position, putting films together.
Oh, absolutely. I've got to be in this marriage as well. And
don't hit him, Jennifer, don't.
Because someone's
He's
got
a control freak. Come
someone,
on.
someone's got
Say
to.
it. Say the two words. Control freak.
No, freak is a pejorative term. I'm not going to buy into that. But it was a scary prospect to go to undertake this 800-kilometer walk, absolutely wing it, without doing any research, any pre-booking of accommodation, anything like that. But having made that decision, it absolutely transformed the experience for me because I would not have met the people that I met. I would not have gone to the places that I went. I would not have had the experiences that I'd had if I had approached it from a linear, logical, a structured perspective.
Yeah, that's true. Jennifer, when Bill was doing all that pre-walking, getting himself ready, and he injured his knee, and what did you think? Didn't he pull out at the last minute? He can't walk nearly 800 kilometres with a bone knee. I mean, did you really try and stop him?
I don't recall him telling me.
Oh, really?
I don't recall him telling me. I do recall myself telling him that he was overdoing it, but I don't know. I think I knew that he was tired, but and that he'd got himself tired even before he'd gone up the Pyrenees. But then he does things like that. So I wasn't fully cognizant of the fact that he had hurt himself before he started.
I didn't tell him.
No, that's what I think.
I thought
think
you
I
had.
just
Okay.
I think I just guessed that he was uncomfortable, sore. But really, Barry, I just wanted to get him out of the house at that stage. That's all. He was so maniacal about everything to do with the Camino and he could talk about nothing else. So I just wanted him gone. I really wanted him gone. And I thought I would get a month, if I was lucky, 6 weeks on my own. And I was looking forward to that. So maybe I should have been paying more attention, but I wasn't.
Barry, I should add here that by the time I left, Jennifer could write a dissertation on the difference between a Judah backpack and an Osprey backpack.
Oh God, don't.
And she probably would get either a master's or a doctorate on it.
Well, that goes to show how much prep you really put in for this. Same as on a movie, same as on, anything in our business. You have to be prepared. And you certainly did that. So then you arrived over there, Bill, and what was the thought that you had? Because in your book, you start off by saying, I thought I'd get a wheelchair from the airport, but I didn't. So
I remember this moment when I got to the Biarritz airport and there was this wheelchair, that had been sort of by the wall. And I was walking up to this wheelchair and I was thinking, should I hop in it? Should I hop in it? No, it's a bad look. I'm a pilgrim. And then I got to the top of these stairs and I stopped because my knee was quite bad at that point. And I thought, here's a dilemma. Tomorrow I have to climb up the Pyrenees, but today, right now, I have to climb down these stairs. I can't climb up the Pyrenees until I climb down these stairs. And but the trick to it was to climb down the stairs without looking like I was going to immediately clutch the handrail. I did have a certain sense of dignity.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, when you arrived at the start of a pilgrimage, now to me, there are so many people that do the Camino every year, and it's been doing for hundreds of years. But I find it so strange that in the 21st century, the age of the digital, AI and all that sort of stuff, that people still want to do a pilgrimage. What does that say to you both about what people want, where we're going, and what is the attraction to your book and to the film?
You want to start, or shall I?
A pilgrimage, time away from what you normally do to go to a sacred place. Um, I think the question is not why are some people doing it? I think the question is why are so many people doing it?
Yes.
They really are craving it. And what happens when they get it's like a calling, like Bill had. Once it gets into them, it's all they can think about until they do it. And that I find remarkable. And I think it speaks of a change that's happening in the world in general. People want to they want to have time on their own and to walk and sort out what's going on in their mind. Sometimes they've had some not so good things happen recently in their life and they just want to sort through that. Sometimes they're about to make a change in their life. They want to sort through that. They're seeing that long distance walking, 800 kilometers walking with your backpack on your back as an opportunity to change. And I think, Barry, I wake up every morning hoping to be a better person, hoping to do things better today. And I think we all have that natural feeling of wanting to do things better. And I think what happens on a pilgrimage is that gets increased. Your ability to change happens faster. It's like a way of putting yourself into hyperdrive of speeding up what might take you 10 years. Instead, in 30 days, you can bring forward great change in your life. And I think that's what's happening.
Mm. So in other words, Bill, people are looking for something to get away from the madness of our current society. Is that how you felt when you started off? Because as Jennifer said, you have to spend a lot of time on your own, don't you?
Look, I think there are bigger forces at play here. The statistics are these. Last year, there were approximately 420,000 people got their Compostela in the certificate for walking the Camino.
Right.
But you can get your Compostela for just merely walking the last 100 kilometers.
Or even cycling for the last 200 kilometers.
That's correct, yeah. But the Camino Frances, as you know, is 800 kilometers.
Yeah.
The Pilgrim's Office in Santiago says is that for every one person who receives a Compostela, another 10 to 12 walk at least some portion of the Camino. So it might be for a few days or a week or whatever somebody can fit into their limited holiday period. But what that means is roughly between 5 and 6 million people a year are walking some part of the Camino. Now that's extraordinary.
It is.
That is extraordinary. And what that says to me is you've got to ask yourself why. Why is this happening? And I firmly believe that it represents a shift in planetary consciousness. There is a shift going on. There is a movement towards a need for something deeper. And I firmly believe that. What we've got at the moment is we've got enormous separation and polarization, within a lot of the world right at the moment, and particularly in the US coming up, with the election and so forth. But it's happening all over. And yet on the Camino, there is no separation. There is unity. Everybody is equal. They all wear roughly the same clothes. Nationalities intermingle, with absolute harmony. And I think one of the things that's happening is that people either consciously or unconsciously are tired of this acrimony, this division, and this
hatred.
Well, I don't like to use that word.
No, I don't either, but there is so much. It's terrible with social media and various things. So
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, to get away from all of that. So as Jennifer says, that is a pilgrimage.
Yeah. When you're on the Camino, you're in what I call a hermetically sealed environment. You're in this cocoon where you don't have to worry about putting out the garbage on a Wednesday night. You don't have to worry about bills. You don't have to worry about the next door neighbor shouting at you. a whole lot of the normal prosaic kind of
Mm.
worries and concerns that you have in everyday life just simply don't exist there for this intense period of time. And it's very addictive. People go back to Camino year after year after year. Some people do two or three Caminos a year.
A year.
A
Wow,
year. Yeah,
that's
they do.
amazing.
Yeah, because they want to remain in this cocoon, in this biosphere. And I think there's a danger to that. There's a danger that you can avoid, avoid the vicissitudes really of
Mm.
everyday life. At some point, you've got to return to the world,
Got to face it.
and you've got to,
Mm.
and
Mm.
hopefully you return to the world with lessons learned from the Camino.
Yeah,
You bring
yeah.
the Camino back home with you.
Mm. But did you find any of that division or whatever persisted while you were on the walk? Because there were so many people, as you say. Did everybody get on well? Are they all friends? Do they all smile and be nice to each other? I know you've had a couple of little issues there with a couple of people who didn't seem to want to be with you, but did you find that there was far more openness and or that people opened their hearts, perhaps, when they were on the pilgrimage?
Yes, but I say that in qualification because if you get 5 or 6 million people, walking on a track in any given year, you're always going to get the people who are narky, the people who've got issues,
Mm.
and for some, I laugh about this, Barry, but people, often first-time pilgrims, they, they think that because they're on a pilgrimage that everyone is the same, so they leave their phones on chargers and they go out for two-hour dinners and come back and wonder why their phone's been stolen, and things like this. I
Right.
mean, grow up, you know. Um,
Mm.
this is not everyone who walks a pilgrimage is a nice guy.
No, no, that's
Well,
fair enough. Well, Bill, you came back from your pilgrimage. You did it. We all know that. You came back, you wrote a wonderful book, The Way, My Way. That came out in 2013. I love the book, by the way. I only read it recently after I'd seen the film twice. So, but then why did you feel that you had to make a film? Were you and Jennifer on side with this one from the word go? Jennifer, do you feel that it had to be turned into a film?
No, no, not at all. I encouraged Bill to write about the Camino, absolutely. And the Camino is very funny. This is my perspective, having walked quite a few now. And there are so many funny things. I did want him to write something not around his life, but something that was genuinely funny,
Mm.
because the last film had been The Way in 2011, had been very melancholic, which wasn't my experience of the Camino. But then I'll let Bill take up the story now as to how it happened.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make a film at all. I'd written the book, and really, I'd written the book really to find closure on the walk. I wasn't expecting anything from the book at all. It was more sort of an internal, a means for me
Mm.
to complete the walk, if you like.
Mhm.
So I self-published. I didn't think a publisher would be interested, but it it took off. The book took off.
Oh, it's
Um,
fantastic sales.
yeah, no, it's been incredible. And and then a few years later, I got a phone call from a friend, a distributor friend, who had read the book, and the book had impacted him deeply. And he called me and he said, "You've got to make a film on this book." And I said, "No, no
Oh, you
way."
said no at first. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Number one, I didn't think there was a film in it. I didn't think there was enough story. Number two, I didn't want to make a film about myself. And number three, I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I was skillful enough to do that. And so I said no. Um, anyway, Richard Becker, this gentleman. He's a persistent man. And he was on me and on me and on me. And finally I said, all right, look, I'll give it a try. I'll see if I can write a screenplay that makes sense to me. And Barry, the only way that I could do it was to not see myself as myself.
Ah, I was going to
Yeah.
wonder about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the only way
You
that
had
I
to
could
step aside from yourself.
ah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise, issues such as um, vanity, ego, hubris, or these sort of things would have interfered. So what I did was I disassociated myself from myself, and I looked at this character of Bill as being someone else, somebody who was actually quite interesting because he was such a dick, but didn't realize it. And
Well, you were
and
very frank about admitting to your own ego, weren't you, in the book and also in the film?
well, the
So
way
you
I
had to
figured
learn
it,
a lot of lessons around that.
yeah, well, the way I figured it was that if I was going to write a memoir, there was no point in writing it and not being absolutely totally brutally honest. So
Mm.
self s- um, self-aware and honest because and that was really part of my process of writing the book to trying to figure out why I'd done this damn walk. Um, so I didn't. It's okay to write in a book, because when I was writing the book, I didn't think anybody would read it anyway.
That's true. You didn't. You thought no one would read
I
it.
thought no one would
Mm.
do.
I
I
think a
could.
lot of authors feel that way. I feel that way about the latest book I'm writing too. So you still wonder. One of those
Yeah,
things. Isn't
as you know, when you write a book, it can last for a long, long time. It's
Oh,
out
that's for sure. So
there.
once the book was done and you decided to make the film, Jennifer, you are the producer. You're also one of the stars of the movie, playing
Mhm.
a wonderful role called Jennifer. Oh, it's you, isn't it? Yes.
It's me.
Playing yourself. Now, that is not easy, I would imagine. But let's put the producer hat on first of all. Did you feel, as the producer, you would be able to make this film happen?
Um, Make it happen. I knew Bill would be able to do that. Um, he was very downhearted at the beginning because the finance wasn't coming, and then um, we had a chat one night, and I said, "Ring such and such this person," and before we knew it, we had the money. We had most of the money anyway. We could start, and
Mm.
it was a big risk starting because we didn't have all the money, but we just took that risk and off we ran with it. And it's a bit like doing a Camino. You make a decision, you're going to do it, you're
Mm.
going to do it. So we kept pushing forward, and then it was a matter of who was going to come with us, and we had to choose people very carefully because we're on a sacred pilgrimage where we're treading on sacred ground.
Mm.
So we have to be so respectful of that. You can't take the wrong person with you for an experience like that. And you can't take very many people. So they have to be the highest skilled people you can get. And we ended up with a very, very small team so that pilgrims could always walk through us so that we never impeded with anyone else's pilgrimage. That was really important. Didn't want people to turn a corner and see a film crew. We wanted them to turn a corner and see a group of pilgrims with a camera. And maybe they were doing something, but we can just walk straight through them and keep on going. That's what we did. So that was important. And once we'd made those decisions, it was about who was going to play Bill.
Yes,
And Chris Hayward, we couldn't go past.
this is wonderful.
He's just wonderful.
Mm.
And then Bill was quite adamant that he was going to use the pilgrims that walked with him, which was high risk. But we both agreed that would make a huge difference to
Mm.
the integrity of the film if they agreed. And they agreed. They
Mm.
put themselves so far out there.
That's wonderful.
And it is wonderful. And then once that decision was made that they were there, then the rest of the casting had to match that. So then we found other pilgrims who were prepared to also come on board and play some of the parts. And that's pretty much it. So in 22 speaking parts, there are 4 professional actors.
Mm.
And
Well,
I had to agree to play myself because
You were cheap.
I was cheap. But also thinking about it afterwards, I think the integrity of Chris, it helped Chris enormously that he was actually talking to me as the real person. That the responses he was getting back from me were exactly me. And I think that set a beautiful tone right at the beginning of the film, which I underestimated when I tried to get Bill to cast somebody as me. But now I realize it was absolutely perfect.
the best way. Yeah. So, Bill, as we said before, Chris is wonderful. You went over to Spain, you went right through the whole area with him. And look, there are so many people that have said to me, God, he looks like Bill, doesn't he? The two of them are so close. And looking, how do you feel about directing a film about yourself with somebody else there? How did it feel to you?
Oh, I just I protected myself, Barry, by looking at it absolutely, totally technically. I didn't want to um, I didn't want to see myself. I didn't want to see this as being my story. I wanted to be accurate to what happened. Um, but if I had allowed myself to be personally invested in each story beat, if you like, um, I would have made mistakes. I would have made choices for the wrong reasons.
Mm,
Um, so I was. There'd be times when Chris would come up to me and say, um, "How were you feeling at this particular point?"
mm,
And I'd written a very detailed day-by-day blog during my walk, and I had refreshed myself by rereading that blog before we started shooting. So I was able to give him that kind of information. But I never, I mean, and look, Chris wore exactly the jacket that I wore. He wore the scarf that I wore. He had the backpack that I had, and the backpack was filled with exactly what I had in that backpack. So the weight and everything was all the same. So and yeah, there were some times when some people on the crew um, said the same thing. They said, "I could have sworn that was you," and that's testament to the skill of Chris as an actor.
Mm.
yeah. And also the way you got that out of him. I mean, yeah, good actor. Still needs a director to be able to bring that out, that character out. I guess you had to treat Chris as its character, not as yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And but Chris and I go back a long, long way, as you know.
Mm,
We first worked together in 1985 in a film called A Street to Die, which he played the lead. And so there's some 40 years of trust, that's built up,
mm,
and quasi friendship. I mean, I wouldn't say that Chris and I were best of friends, but we came together when we worked, and there's a lot of mutual respect there, I think.
yeah. Now, you both, of course, were on the shoot. Uh, there must have been some fun things that happened, some unexpected things that happened on the way around. And that's the joy of editing, I suppose. But is there anything that stands out? And I don't know why I'm asking this, I wasn't planning on doing it, but is there something that stands out that while you were filming still is in your mind?
Stands out while we were filming. Someone sent me a photo on Messenger a couple of days ago. It's a photo of me lying in high grass about this high. And I know they're about to shoot. I know I'm going to be in the shot. So what do? You run to the edge and you just throw yourself into a field and you lie there very still with insects and things crawling all over you. I'd forgotten all about that. It was that sort of shoot where we're always, every day was an adventure, Barry. Every day was an adventure. There was no one day the same as the other. The unpredictability of the weather, the unpredictability of who was going to come around the corner and say what Camino to you, the unpredictability of whether the snail was going to perform, and Stanley performed so beautifully.
Oh,
There
lovely.
was just all those lovely things, and the people who played themselves, Balash, who is fabulous, and Laszlo, who at the end of every night wants to sing you a Hungarian lullaby before he leaves you, and Ivan and Giovanna, who are so passionately Italian and so deeply, deeply moved by everything that's going on, but they have very little English. So you're just standing with them without talking and enjoying their company. It was wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, I think standing in a field, waiting for the light and waiting for a long, long time for the light to get right, and listening to the cricket, and
Oh, yes.
and
You were listening to the quiz?
we were
The
listening
whole
to,
crew was listening to the cricket.
and it was an absolutely critical point. I can't remember. It was
Who was playing? It was South Africa. I don't know.
no, I'm pretty sure we were playing England, but one of the batsmen was about to get a century, and suddenly, after waiting for something like 45 minutes for the light to get absolutely right, the light got absolutely right. But I said, no, we're not going to shoot. We're going to listen to this next ball.
Yeah. I
No, I know
wasn't.
you and I both, and Jennifer, we're all cricket tragics, but that is a lovely story.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah, no,
wonderful.
that was funny. And yeah, the
I'll
guy
tell
got
you
his
what, the camera work I found absolutely wonderful. I mean, you must have done a lot of location studying beforehand, research, but some of the camera work was just so magic. It's like being there when you're in the audience.
um well, as you know, Barry, I'm a very strong visualist.
Mm.
But I also had a very, very fine director of photography in Callum Stewart. And Callum and I talked a lot before we started shooting. We carefully chose the right cameras and the lenses. We had a sophisticated optical filtration system over all the lenses. Um, we we didn't have a big lighting kit, but so we were subject to ambient light a lot.
Yeah.
The way we used that, and this is where Callum was so brilliant. Um, was yeah, look, I wanted, and we also had our drone operator who'd done our two previous films, PTS and Facing Fear,
All right.
and we knew Scott Last, his name is. We knew him to be able to do some wonderful, wonderful stuff. Um,
Yeah, some of
the
those
thing,
drone shots were magic. Yeah.
yeah, but the thing about the Camino is that it is very beautiful. Um, But what happens is this: pilgrims set off very early in the morning, and they walk until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they bunk down. They grab a bed, they do the laundry, they write up their journals or whatever, they rest. Um, Very rarely do pilgrims walk after about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and yet that was when we did most of our filming because that's when the light was really, really interesting.
Mm.
And um, and so a lot of people walking the Camino miss that extraordinary afternoon light,
Mm.
which we were able to capture in the film.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, I could talk to you till the cows come home, but just to finish up, and maybe you can both answer in your own way. Who is Bill Bennett now because of this total experience? Who is Bill Bennett? Jennifer.
The Camino changed Bill. There's no doubt about that. He went from being very closeted in his thinking, not rigid, but didn't really want to speak openly about some of the thoughts that were going through his mind about his place in the world, our place as humans in the world, spirituality, these sorts of things. He didn't like talking about those freely. So what happened with the Camino is that he opened up to all of that. And I think that what Ivan Boffey says in the film, that a true pilgrim walks with his heart in his hand. I think that's what Bill learnt to do. And I think that is the extraordinary difference now. Bill moves through life with his heart in his hand.
Wonderful. Bill, how do you see yourself now? What did it do for you? Not only the walk, but the film as well, and the book. What did it do for you?
I see my purpose as being in service. That's how I see this next phase of my life, of being in service and doing stuff that that hopefully allows people to see themselves and those around them in a different way. I'm nothing and I'm no one, Barry. I'm nothing and I'm no one. Before, I used to think that I was someone, but I'm not. And that's a big change.
So you two have made a lot of films between you. Will this impact the next one?
Oh, yeah. Look, I don't, from a filmmaking perspective, I could not have made The Way My Way without having made PTS and Facing Fear on a number of levels. On a technical level, I learned so much in those two documentaries. I mean, I'm coming to it with, when I started PTS, I was, 35 years a filmmaker. But I learned so much from doing those two theatrical documentaries. I took that technical expertise into this Camino film. But more importantly, I think I took, if I can say it, the wisdom that I had acquired from doing those two documentaries, the wisdom and the compassion and the empathy that I'd acquired doing those two documentaries. I took that into this film. And I think the Way My Way is informed by, it's informed deeply by what I learned on those two prior films.
Yeah. And it certainly comes across, sitting in the audience. Congratulations to you both. Thanks a lot. And I know the film deserves every success. And I'm sure there's been a lot of help from the universe on this one. And I'm sure that'll help spread the word for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.